Ben Brafman is a friend and frankly a genius. One of the best legal minds in the country. He's represented everybody from Sean Combs to today and this week in the last 2 weeks. You'll see the papers Plaxico Burris and a slew of others. Corporate, high profile, a number of others, but he's also not here just as an academic and as a great speaker. He does this for a living, so God forbid you do have a problem, he's a person you want to call, and not just watch on TV. So thank you very much for joining us, Ben Brafman. Thank you.
The Puff Daddy Plexico Burris are the sort of fun distractions. The basic part of my practice is white-collar criminal defense work and fraud litigation and complex litigation. And the difficulty today is that the landscape has changed dramatically. It's not business as usual. People are being prosecuted for crimes that years ago were not crimes, for things that years ago were not taken seriously. The potential penalties that people are exposed to are extraordinary. If anyone in this room without a criminal record, and I assume there are at least some of you without a criminal record, if anyone in this room without a criminal record went out today and held up a liquor store at gunpoint and shot the person behind the counter, if they did not die, you would be in less trouble than if you were involved in a mortgage fraud case today, based on the way the sentencings work, based on the perception of the public. If you're in Wall Street and you need a trial today, it's almost impossible to get a fair jury. You're the poster child for everything that's wrong. You're the reason my 401k is in the toilet as far as the jurors are on the table. So my work has become increasingly complicated. I spoke before a group of investment bankers a few weeks ago, and I started where I thought it was a clever opening. I said I'd ask those of you in the room who have cell phones and pagers to please turn them off, and those of you who have monitoring bracelets, please turn them down. Half the people in the room reached down to their right ankle. So it was a bad sense of timing, because at the end of the day, it's really crazy. It's severe. I've never seen it like this. I may not look it, but I'm 60, so I've been doing this for 35 years. I was a prosecutor. I've done it on both sides. And today the rules have changed. The rule book has gone out the window. And people now are not only being overly regulated, overly investigated, and overly prosecuted, but jurors are merciless, and judges are feeling the public sense of outrage. So getting a fair shake in the criminal justice system is very, very difficult. Getting a fair shake in the civil court system is very, very difficult, because people are angry, and people perhaps have a right to be angry, and they're sort of taking it out on anybody who they perceive to be either successful or trying to make a lot of money or trying to get a lot of money. I've also seen something which is an interesting phenomenon. I have a high-end white-collar practice. Most of my clients are successful people. I have people coming to me who live in $10 million apartments, who are wearing a $75,000 watch, and who got dropped off in a Ferrari, who can't write a check for $25, because everything that they have is either frozen, or they have no liquid assets, or the liquid assets they have went into either an investment account that went in the toilet, or a Madoff account that went south. And what's remarkable about what's happened is it's sort of a series of events that go from bad to worse. If you look into the front page of today's Times, there's an article on how the major law firms of the city, Cravath, which is once the bastion of wealth, are now cutting their hourly rates in response to the demands of clients who are being undercut by people from outside of New York. Because in today's electronic age, I don't need to see you in my office in the east side of Manhattan. I can see you by video conference from somewhere in Iowa, where I have associates who I'm paying $60,000 a year instead of paying $200,000 a year, so I can bill you at $250 an hour instead of $1,000 an hour. So clients are getting smart, and clients are getting board of directors who are suddenly paying attention. And that's an interesting, many of you are CEOs, many of you are involved in businesses. Years ago, to sit on a board was fun. It was a perk. You went to a party, you flew in a private plane, you got a couple of $1,000, you went to meetings. you got a bunch of material sent to you every month and you just basically ignored it. Today, if you do that, you get sued, you get indicted, you get prosecuted. So being on a board today, you got to be out of your mind to be on a board of a public company today, because if you don't do the work, you have liability. If you do the work and you disagree with the way the company runs, then nobody really wants you on the board. So boards used to rubber stamp what corporate people wanted, and now boards have been prosecuted, boards have been sued, good boards of directors are leaving. Charities have trouble getting trustees to be involved. People who give a lot of money to charities are angry at charities for how recklessly they invested their money. It's a spiraling that I've never seen in my lifetime. I read about it when I was growing up. I didn't think I would ever see it. I mean, when I was a kid, you know, there was a mantra. If you put your money into General Motors or into Citibank or to any of these major Fortune 500 companies, you were set. You put money every month into a big investment bank and they managed your money, and when you were my age, you know, you turn around, suddenly you had a lot of wealth because it grew and it grew. And for a while it was true. And you know, 20 years ago there was a crash and it came back in like 15 minutes, and everybody who lost money if they didn't sell got their money back. I think today's different. I think today's economic hardship, regardless of who is president, regardless of these new investment policies, I think it's going to take a very long time, in my own judgment, to see a turnaround, assuming there is a turnaround, because it's bigger. I think the government made a very big mistake in letting Lehman Brothers fail. I think Lehman Brothers should have been allowed to survive, because what Lehman Brothers' failure did was it was sort of a ripple effect, and it created panic, and it created ripple effect. Lehman Brothers underwrites an investment deal, it could affect 10,000 people. People who provide products, provide services, provide support staff, all of those people are affected. People, I think, don't get that. I think that the prior administration wasn't, I'm not here to make a political statement, I think it's pretty much over its head in terms of managing a crisis that nobody really recognized in terms of the depth of the crisis. There were distractions. You're in a 2-year campaign. There's a war, there are other wars, there are economic crises all over the world, and at the end of the day, what you have here is an extraordinary mess. I think the new administration has interesting ideas, they have interesting people, they've brought in some bright minds, but I don't think our problems are going to necessarily be solved by people who have excellent academic credentials. The smartest people I've met in my life are really not people who necessarily have extraordinary academic credentials. I think the smartest people I've seen in my life are people who have savvy, who have some street smarts, who sort of get it. And not everybody who has an extraordinary academic background necessarily has street smarts. I think you need a combination of talent to get us out of the mess that we're in. So why am I here? I'm sort of, it's like interesting. Nobody ever wants to have me in a room, because I'm a criminal lawyer. I'm a sort of like, you know, it's bad when I'm here. And yet, you know, I'm busier than ever, but what's interesting is I'm busier than ever, and the clientele that I see are generally coming to me with great cases from a purely technical criminal lawyer standpoint, overwhelming problems, sort of no way out, and unable to fund a viable defense, and the other side is the government that has infinite resources. So it's sort of like it used to be a playing field that was tilted slightly in favor of the government. Now it's sort of like you're doing more than a 90-degree incline. The presumption of innocence, there is no presumption of innocence in the United States. If you're in a federal courtroom charged with securities fraud, you got 12 angry people looking at you as now you have a chance to get even and interested in the facts. So it takes a great deal more effort on my part just to sort of try and level the playing field. You know, one of the things I once said in the summation of a trial was, you know, my fear, ladies and gentlemen, is not the facts. I can deal with the facts, but it's sort of like being a lifeguard on a beach. You can be trained, you can be in great shape, you can have excellent skills, but if there is a current, you're going to lose the person in the water, even if you're trained, even if you're strong enough to get there, even if you're capable of doing the rescue, because the current is eventually going to carry them away, and eventually you'll both drown. And that's what's happening today. There's a current sort of sweeping through the United States. It's actually sweeping through the world. I don't think Europe gets it. I don't think